Snow fell softly over the city, covering the streets in white. Neon lights reflected on the icy roads, making everything look bright and cold at the same time. People hurried past, their heads down, hands in their pockets. No one stopped to look at the small figure sitting by the side of the road. The girl was tiny, with pale blue skin that shimmered slightly under the streetlights. Her eyes glowed faintly like little stars, and her hands shook as she held a small box of glowing matches. She wore a thin coat, too small for the freezing weather. Every time a gust of wind blew, she pulled the coat tighter around her shoulders. She had been alone for a long time. Her spaceship had crashed far from her home planet, leaving her stranded in this strange city. She did not understand all the signs, the strange language people spoke, or why they ignored her. Some even laughed when they saw her, calling her names she did not understand. It hurt, but she learned to stay quiet. She had no one to protect her. The girl opened her small box of matches and held them out. Matches, hot, warm, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. She hoped someone would take one just to look at her, just to say something kind. But people passed quickly. A man in a shiny coat looked at her once, frowned, and walked on. A group of children ran past, throwing snow in the air, laughing without noticing her. She tried not to cry, but her lips trembled. A few blocks away, a man walked through the snow, carrying a bag from the store. He was a single dad. His name was Thomas, and he was tired after a long day of work. He was thinking about getting home, making dinner, and checking on his son who had been sick. He liked the quiet nights in winter, but tonight something felt different. As he passed a corner, he noticed the small figure huddled near the wall. At first he thought she was just another child lost in the snow, but then he saw the glow in her eyes. He stopped. The girl looked up at him, and for a moment their eyes met. Thomas felt a strange pull in his chest, a mixture of concern and curiosity. He knelt down in the snow, careful not to get too close at first. "Hey," he said gently, "are you okay?" His voice was warm, and it carried over the cold wind. The girl blinked and looked away, unsure. She had learned not to trust strangers. But there was something in his voice that made her pause. "Cold, hungry," she whispered. Her words were broken, her accent strange. Thomas could understand her just enough to know she needed help. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small thermos of hot chocolate. "Here," he said, offering it. "Drink this. It will help you warm up." The girl hesitated. She had never had human food before. The liquid smelled strange, sweet and rich. Slowly she took the thermos, holding it carefully between her small hands. She sipped, and her eyes widened. It was warm, and it made her feel safe even for a moment. Thomas smiled. "Do you have somewhere to go?" he asked. She shook her head. I know home," she said. His heart tightened. He had always tried to teach his son to help others, to be kind, but he never imagined he would meet someone like this. "Come with me," he said softly. "You can stay at my place tonight. We can figure things out tomorrow." She looked at him, her eyes unsure. She wanted to say no. She wanted to run away as she had done so many times before. But something in Thomas's face, gentle, patient, and kind, made her pause. She nodded slowly. Thomas offered his arm, and she took it, careful not to touch him too much. Together they walked through the snowy streets. The city seemed less harsh when they moved together. The neon lights reflected on her glowing skin, making her look like a tiny star walking beside a human. As they passed other people, some looked at the girl strangely. A few whispered to each other, but no one stopped them. Thomas did not care. He focused on keeping her safe, on keeping her warm. When they reached his apartment building, Thomas opened the door and led her inside. The warmth of the lobby made her shiver less. He could see her small body relax slightly. For the first time in days she felt that maybe someone cared. Thomas held the elevator button, and she stepped in slowly, glancing around. She did not know how elevators worked. Thomas explained gently, pointing to the buttons. She nodded, trying to understand, trusting him more with each step. When they reached his apartment, he opened the door and let her step inside first. The warmth hit her like a wave. She had never felt anything like it. For the first time in a long time she felt safe. Thomas watched her carefully, making sure she was comfortable. He set down the thermos on the table and gave her a blanket. "You can stay here tonight," he said. "Tomorrow we will figure out what to do next." The girl wrapped the blanket around herself and nodded. Her eyes glowed softly in the light. She did not know what tomorrow would bring, but for now she was not alone. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the city in white. Inside, a human and an alien girl sat quietly together, two strangers brought together by chance. It was the beginning of something new, A Christmas neither of them would forget. The alien girl sat on the small couch, her legs tucked under the blanket. She stared at the apartment, taking in every detail. The walls were painted a soft cream color. A few pictures hung crookedly, showing a small boy playing with a dog, smiling in the sunlight. She had never seen anything like this before. It was warm, cozy, and safe, everything she had not had for a long time. Thomas watched her from the kitchen doorway, holding a tray with a plate of bread and fruit. "I know it's not much," he said gently, "but you need to eat something. You must be hungry." The girl hesitated. She had eaten strange foods on her journey, things that tasted sharp or bitter. This looked normal. She sniffed the bread carefully, then took a small piece. The taste surprised her. It was soft and sweet, and for the first time in days she smiled faintly. Thomas smiled back. "See? Humans make food to help each other. It's a way of caring." The girl tilted her head, trying to understand. The words were strange, but the tone felt kind. She wanted to trust him, but fear was still in her heart. "Name?" she asked softly, her glowing eyes fixed on him. "Thomas," he said. "And you? What's your name?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Lyra." It was a small name, barely spoken, but it had weight. Thomas nodded as if her name mattered. "Lyra," he repeated gently. "That's a beautiful name." She looked down at her hands, feeling shy. No one had ever said her name like that before. The apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of the heater. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the city in white. Lyra looked out the window, watching the people rushing past on the streets below. She felt a pang of loneliness, remembering how cold and alone she had been. Thomas noticed her expression. "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" he asked softly. Lyra nodded. Lost," she said, her words broken but clear. "No home, no family." Her voice trembled, and she glanced at him for a reaction. Thomas felt a lump in his throat. He wanted to say so much, to promise her everything would be okay, but he also knew that life was not so simple. "I can help," he said finally. "I can give you a place to stay. For now, at least. Tomorrow we will figure out the rest." Lyra's eyes widened. She wanted to say no, to run back into the streets where she was invisible, where no one could touch her. But she felt something in Thomas, a kind of strength she had not felt before. He would not hurt her. He would not leave her. Slowly she nodded. Thomas handed her a cup of warm water. "Drink. It will help you feel better." She sipped carefully, her glowing eyes fixed on him. He sat down beside her, keeping a respectful distance, showing her he would not invade her space. He knew trust was earned, not demanded. "Do you understand humans?" he asked gently. She nodded. "Some," she said. "Different, world, strange." Thomas nodded. "Yes. But you're here now, and you don't have to face it alone." The words were simple, but they carried meaning. Lyra looked at him, really looked at him, and felt the first spark of hope in a long time. She moved slightly, showing a small part of her alien ability. Her hands glowed faintly, warming the blanket around her. Thomas noticed and smiled. "That's amazing," he said. "You can make warmth?" She nodded shyly. "Yes, cold, snow, help." He realized she wanted to help, even though she was small and frightened. "You're brave," he said. "And smart. That's human too, you know." Lyra tilted her head. "Human?" she asked, confused. Thomas laughed softly. "Yes. Humans care and humans are strong. You are learning from us and we can learn from you too." The afternoon passed quietly. Thomas showed her simple things: how to sit on the couch without slipping on the blanket, how to use the faucet, and where to put her glowing matches so they would not burn anything. Lyra listened carefully, her eyes wide with curiosity. She had not expected anyone to teach her anything. She had only expected cold streets and loneliness. When the sky outside began to darken, Thomas pulled out a small box of decorations he had bought for his son's upcoming Christmas. "Do you want to help me decorate?" he asked. Lyra hesitated, then nodded. She carefully took a shiny ornament and placed it on the small tree in the corner. It wobbled, but she giggled softly when it did not fall. Thomas smiled, seeing the first real laugh from her since he had found her. The snow continued to fall outside, but inside the apartment there was warmth, light, and laughter. For the first time, Lyra felt a sense of belonging, however small. She was still scared, still unsure of everything, but for the first time she believed someone could care for her. Thomas watched her carefully, making a silent promise to protect her. No matter what challenges came next, he would not let her face them alone. Outside, the city continued its busy life, indifferent to the small alien girl in the snow. Inside, however, A human and an alien shared a moment of trust and hope, a moment that could change both of their lives forever. The night grew darker, but the apartment remained bright with warmth and kindness. And for Lyra, that warmth was more powerful than any light in the city, more comforting than any blanket. She was no longer just an alien girl in the snow. She was Lyra, and for the first time she had a place to belong. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the small apartment windows. Lyra woke to the warm glow of the heater and the faint smell of toasted bread. For a moment she forgot where she was. The apartment felt safe, almost like a tiny home, and she realized she had slept through the night without fear. That was new. That was strange. That was wonderful. Thomas was in the kitchen, humming softly as he prepared breakfast. The aroma of eggs and toast filled the room. "Good morning, Lyra," he said, smiling. "Sleep well." She nodded shyly, her glowing eyes brightening slightly. She did not know how to respond to such ordinary human questions, but she felt something warm inside. "Breakfast," he said, setting a small plate in front of her. "Eat first. Then we can start decorating the apartment for Christmas." Lyra looked at the plate. The food looked simple, but it smelled inviting. She picked up a piece of toast and took a bite. The taste was soft and pleasant, and she realized she liked it. Thomas watched her carefully, noticing the small signs that she was adjusting to this world. After breakfast, Thomas pulled out a small box of decorations, tinsel, ornaments, and a tiny string of lights. "Do you want to help me?" he asked. Lyra tilted her head. She had never seen such things. She had no idea what Christmas was, but she could see the joy in Thomas's eyes. Carefully, she reached for an ornament, a small red ball that reflected the sunlight. She held it delicately and placed it on the tiny tree. It wobbled but did not fall. A small smile appeared on her face. Thomas clapped softly. "See? You're very careful. That's good." Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes meeting his. For the first time she felt accepted. She felt like she was part of something, even if it was small and strange. She helped him hang tinsel and lights. When a string of lights flickered to life, she gasped softly, amazed at the little bulbs glowing in the warm room. "You like that?" Thomas asked. She nodded quickly. "Yes, pretty warm," she said. Her small words were broken, but they carried meaning. Thomas smiled. "It is warm," he said. "It's part of what humans call Christmas. It's about being together, caring for each other, and sharing warmth." Lyra did not fully understand, but the idea made sense. She liked warmth. She liked being safe. She liked Thomas. After decorating, they sat together on the couch. Thomas handed her a small cup of cocoa. She sipped carefully, savoring the sweet warmth. The little lights reflected in her glowing skin, making her look like a tiny star. She realized that for the first time in a long time she was not afraid. Not of the snow. Not of strangers. Not of being alone. Thomas looked at her gently. "Do you want to tell me more about your world?" he asked. Lyra's eyes widened. She had never shared much with anyone before. Slowly she spoke, telling him about the crash, the strange ships, and the cold journey through the city. Her words were broken, but Thomas listened carefully. He did not interrupt. He did not judge. He only listened and nodded. "You've been very brave," he said when she finished. "Not many would survive what you have." Lyra looked at him, unsure how to respond. She had thought she was small and weak, but Thomas made her feel strong. For the first time she felt like she could belong somewhere. Suddenly a small accident happened. Lyra's glowing hands brushed against the tree, and a few ornaments wobbled and fell. She froze, worried she had ruined everything. Thomas laughed softly and picked up the ornaments. "It's okay," he said. "We can fix it. Accidents happen. That's normal." Lyra exhaled slowly, relief washing over her. She realized humans were patient. They could handle mistakes without anger. She liked that. They spent the rest of the day finishing the decorations. Thomas showed her how to hang a star on top of the tree. She reached carefully, her small hands trembling slightly. When the star balanced, she clapped softly. "Star, bright," she whispered. Thomas smiled. "Yes, it's bright. Just like you." Lyra felt a warm glow in her chest. As night fell, snow began to fall gently outside the window. The city lights reflected on the white streets. Inside, the apartment was cozy, filled with soft light, warmth, and laughter. Lyra looked around and realized something. She had never had a place like this before. She had never had someone care for her, not really. But now she did. Thomas watched her quietly, proud and gentle. He knew the real challenge had only begun. There were still dangers outside, still questions about her origin, still the world that might not understand her. But for now he had given her something priceless. A safe place, a warm home, and the feeling that she belonged. That night, as Lyra curled under a soft blanket beside the tiny tree, she felt something new, hope. It was strange, yes, but also beautiful. She did not know what the future held, but she knew one thing. For the first time in her life, she was not alone. She had Thomas, and perhaps this could be her new beginning. Outside, the snow fell quietly. Inside, a human and an alien shared a peaceful Christmas evening, small but full of warmth. And in that simple moment, both of them felt something powerful, the beginning of trust, friendship, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. The morning after their first Christmas decorating, Lyra woke to the soft sunlight streaming through the window. She felt rested but still unsure. The warmth of Thomas's apartment had become familiar, yet outside, the world was still cold and strange. She pulled the blanket closer around her small shoulders and looked at him. Thomas was already in the kitchen, humming softly as he prepared breakfast. "Good morning, Lyra," he said, smiling. "Sleep well." She nodded quietly, her glowing eyes following his movements. She was beginning to feel that this place and this human were safe. That was something new, something she had not known in a long time. After breakfast, Thomas suggested they go for a walk to enjoy the snowy city. "It's good to get some fresh air," he said gently. Lyra hesitated. Outside was loud, bright, and unpredictable. She had spent weeks hiding in corners, avoiding humans, and now she was being asked to walk openly in the snow. But she trusted Thomas. Slowly she nodded. They walked together down the street, Lyra carefully following his steps. The snow was soft beneath their feet, and the cold wind made her shiver. Thomas noticed and offered her his scarf. She hesitated but accepted it, wrapping it around her glowing shoulders. People passed by, some staring at her strange appearance, some whispering to each other. Lyra's heart beat faster. She wanted to run. But Thomas squeezed her hand gently. "We're together. Nothing can hurt you if we stick together," he said. They found a quiet park where the snow covered the benches and the trees. Lyra looked around, fascinated. She had never seen so much snow in one place. She reached out her hands, letting the flakes land on her skin. The glow of her palms made the snow sparkle faintly. Thomas smiled, noticing how she seemed happy despite the cold. "You have a special gift," he said. "You can make the snow sparkle." "That's amazing." Lyra looked down, unsure what to say. No one had ever called her gift amazing before. Usually it frightened people. But Thomas did not seem afraid. His calm and gentle tone made her feel brave. As they walked back toward the apartment, Thomas decided it was time to talk about something important. "Lyra, I know it's not easy being here. You're different. People might not understand you." She looked up at him, her eyes wide. "Different? Dangerous?" she whispered. Thomas shook his head. "Not dangerous. Special. Unique. And you deserve to be treated with kindness, just like anyone else." Lyra's hands glowed softly as she held them together. She did not fully understand his words, but she felt the meaning. Humans could be brave and kind at the same time. That was something she had not believed before. Thomas continued. "I will protect you. I will help you. You are not alone anymore." That evening, Thomas showed her another side of humanity. They worked together to fix a small problem in the apartment. The heating system had started to make strange noises, and Lyra, curious, wanted to help. She touched the pipes, making a faint glow appear, which accidentally warmed one section too much. A small puddle of water appeared on the floor. She froze, worried she had caused damage. Thomas kneeled beside her and said gently, "It's okay. Mistakes happen. We fix them together." He showed her how to use simple tools to dry the puddle and adjust the heater. Lyra watched carefully, learning from his patience and cleverness. She realized that humans could solve problems without fear or anger. They could adapt and care at the same time. Afterward, they sat together with mugs of warm cocoa. Lyra sipped carefully, watching the lights of the city through the window. "Why care?" she asked softly. Thomas smiled. "Because humans have something very important. We care for others. We protect, we help, we share warmth. Even when it's hard, we try. That's what makes us human." Lyra thought about that. She had never experienced care like this. It felt strange but also wonderful. The snow continued to fall outside, covering the city in white. Inside, Lyra's glow illuminated the small apartment. She felt safe and accepted, something she had never felt before. She realized that humans could be brave, clever, and kind all at once. That was more powerful than anything else she had seen in her travels. Thomas looked at her quietly, proud of how far she had come in just a few days. He knew there would be challenges ahead. Other humans, rules, and maybe even authorities looking for her. But he also knew one thing: together they could face anything. Lyra was learning about humanity, and he was reminded of it himself. How simple acts of kindness could be the strongest power of all. That night, as Lyra curled up under the blanket, she felt something new growing inside her: trust. She trusted Thomas, she trusted this place, and she even began to trust herself. She was still small and alone in the larger world, but inside this apartment, with the snow outside and the warmth inside, she had found a heart she could rely on. The city continued its busy life outside, but inside, two lives had changed. A human single dad and an alien girl shared warmth, trust, and understanding. And in that quiet apartment, they both discovered something important. The true heart of humanity is not in strength or weapons, but in patience, courage, and the ability to care. The morning after the snowstorm, the city looked different. Streets were covered in thick white snow, and the buildings sparkled under the pale sunlight. Lyra stood by the window watching the world outside. She had never seen so much snow at once. It was beautiful, but also dangerous if she wandered too far. She turned to Thomas, who was quietly packing a small bag of supplies. "Where go?" she asked, her glowing eyes full of curiosity and concern. Thomas smiled gently. "We're not going far," he said. "But I want you to be ready for anything. The world can be strange even for someone like you. It's better if we plan ahead." Lyra nodded. She trusted him completely now. He had given her warmth, safety, and hope. He had shown her what humans could do when they cared. After breakfast, they stepped out into the snow. Lyra marveled at the city, noticing details she had ignored before. The neon lights reflected off the snow like tiny stars, and the air smelled crisp and clean. People passed by, some glancing at her glowing skin, some whispering. Lyra's heart beat faster. She had been frightened by attention before, but now she felt brave. She had Thomas beside her. As they walked, Thomas explained the world outside the apartment. "Some people won't understand you," he said. "Some may be afraid or unkind. But that doesn't mean you have to be afraid. You can face them as long as you stay careful and trust yourself." Lyra listened closely. She had never been taught courage like this. It felt strange but also powerful. They stopped near a quiet park where the snow had piled high on the benches and trees. Lyra touched the snow with her glowing hands, and the flakes sparkled like tiny diamonds. Children nearby stared, pointing and whispering. She froze. Thomas bent down and said gently, "It's okay. You don't have to hide. You are special, and it's nothing to be afraid of. Humans can be kind if they see your heart." Encouraged, Lyra stepped forward, letting her glow warm the snow around her. The children's fear slowly changed to wonder. They watched her carefully, and some even smiled. Thomas watched proudly. This small moment showed him the strength of compassion. Humanity could be brave, clever, and kind all at once. And now Lyra could see it too. When they returned to the apartment, Thomas helped her understand more about human life. He showed her simple tools, the lights, and the devices humans used daily. Lyra learned quickly, amazed by the ingenuity humans had developed. Her alien skills were unique, but Thomas's cleverness reminded her that humans could also adapt and solve problems in surprising ways. As the evening approached, Thomas prepared a small dinner. They sat together, eating quietly, enjoying the warmth. Lyra looked around the apartment, noticing how much it had changed in her mind. Once it had been just a shelter. Now it felt like a home. She felt a strange but comforting emotion, belonging. After dinner, Thomas pulled out a small notebook and showed Lyra sketches he had made of future adventures. "One day we might need to travel," he said. "There could be dangers, but we'll face them together. You're not alone anymore." Lyra studied the sketches, her eyes wide. She felt excitement mixed with trust and courage. She was ready. The night came quietly. Snow continued to fall outside, covering the city in a soft blanket. Lyra sat by the small Christmas tree, its lights reflecting in her glowing eyes. Thomas joined her with mugs of warm cocoa. They drank in silence for a while, enjoying the calm. Then Thomas spoke softly, "You've changed a lot in just a few days. You've learned to trust, to laugh, to be brave. And you've taught me something too, how important it is to care." Lyra looked at him, glowing softly. She realized that humans had something unique. Not super strength, not powerful technology, but something far greater. Patience, cleverness, kindness, and courage. These traits had given her hope when she had none, safety when she was alone, and warmth when the world was cold. Outside, the city moved on, indifferent to the small alien girl and the human who had taken her in. But inside the apartment, two lives had changed forever. Lyra no longer feared the snow, the streets, or strangers. She had a family even if it was small. She had a friend, protector, and guide in Thomas. And she had something she had never had before: hope for the future. Thomas watched her quietly, proud of the small steps she had taken. He knew there would be challenges ahead. Other humans might not understand and dangers could arise. But he also knew that together they could face anything. Lyra had learned to trust, and he had learned the strength of human compassion. That night, as Lyra curled under the blanket by the glowing tree, she whispered softly, "Home." Thomas smiled, knowing that she finally understood. Home was not just a place. It was people, warmth, and care. And for both of them, this was a new beginning, one full of hope, courage, and the quiet heroism of humanity. The snow fell gently outside, covering the city in white. Inside, the alien girl and the human single dad shared warmth, trust, and the promise of tomorrow. They had faced fear, loneliness, and uncertainty together, and in doing so, they had discovered the heart of humanity. It was not in power, not in strength, but in the courage to care, to protect, and to give hope. And in that small apartment, on a quiet winter night, a human and an alien girl began a new life together, ready to face the future, one warm and brave step at a time.